Zack Snyder, Rolling Stone article, expose or hit piece. Next up on Just to Talk. So let's talk about it. And welcome to the Flicks Picks and the Nitpicks. And I am your humble host, No 718. And hopefully this is something you won't have to wait on, and I will put this one straight out there. I might have to do another one to really do a better and deeper dive into this infamous article that happened to drop the same day as Zack Snyder's Justice League digital release. So the question everyone is asking and talking about, and I've seen on so many streams, is this a hit piece or is this actually an expose? Because this has actually been kind of like clamoring around online for a little bit. You know, Ray Fisher even had to go back and forth about it, but the specifics I don't want to get into right now. Because I was thinking, after listening to some tubers talk about it on both different sides of the fence, I realized something. And I've been saying it lately even more. A lot of the argument is really people exercising their beefs between each other and utilizing Zack Snyder and the Snyderverse as a veneer for the argument. You know, some good people I see talking about it and really wanting to really say, okay, could Zack Snyder have been using the fandom? And my thing is this, because we could go all over so many different areas. So, and I'm going to do a more detailed one where I could actually go through the actual article. But if the question is that Zack Snyder used his fandom to do all these nefarious things, I beg to differ, because we don't need his assistance. I think even at one time, like the Snyderverse was about to roll back on him when the James Gunn thing came out. You know, everybody looked like they was coming at James Gunn, and Zack Snyder said something, and you like was damn near like, yo, chill now, y'all, like really, you know, because the boycott WB thing seemed to be going. And I don't know if that was him controlling the mob. It was not. The mob was going to do what they were going to do online regardless. They was ready to eat the guy that they so-called were following. You know, look at the fandom. Look how quickly even some, I think these guys mean well, but their streams can go left with arguments within the fandom. And over what? The Snyder Cut came out. So what, we're going to have buyer's remorse if he turned out to be the quote-unquote Lex Luthor that they described him as in the article? I mean, is that what we're going to do? Oh, should they stop the hashtag? What's the motivation? That's something that I'm not really exactly certain of. Because it's like you're looking over and as people get excited and building up their hope, you know, to maybe the Snyder Cut will be restored, you got people making streams and videos almost hating on the fact that people are excited about a film, and you think that may or may not happen, and you think that didn't cause enough of a reason for them to go back at you. For some reason, even if Zack Snyder was to continue make his movies, some people were going to enjoy them. And for some reason, you guys would call them everything except a child of God, you know, under the sun. But that's okay in all over movies, and we'll do that on our own. We don't need Zack Snyder to do that. That's just being honest. And I'm not one of those people that do it, but I'm of the fandom. So we have to own it. This is what generalizations look like. So I think a lot of people need to own the fact that if you're going out there writing the hashtag, be prepared to understand that every time you scream fuck, shit, whatever, on any other person, you're representing everything you say you're not. Some people want the smoke. I'm cool with that. I've heard some people say that. So if it's about smoke, fine. But then you get helped with the smoking gun. And don't get mad because you said you wanted the smoke. So now you want to beef over the movie. This is how you get to sell and represent the fandom. I promise you, most of the people that's acting a fool and wilding out never donated anything towards this. Never did. I wouldn't be surprised. Most of them didn't. And it's usually that way. I mean, like, I could say that and other things outside of this. But that I don't want to go straight too far from the path. The bottom line is that we all are culpable online. You know, some of us do it for entertainment's sake and shock value, which I don't knock the hustle on. Yo, man, I'm going to say this again, man. Because like I said, there's two ways that I look at this shit. If this is a hustle, I respect the hustle. Because you guys are making flips out of it, out of the traffic. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're monetized, this, that, the third. That's why I hate when a lot of times these guys talk about, oversight, and they don't let the artists just do whatever they want to do. If you're monetized, you're not doing what you want to do. You can't just curse and say any old thing. They'll take you out of your monetization. And you don't want that because that's your money. So people could easily say you guys have sold out. You listen to your machine. So remember, everybody has to work with the machine. Everybody does. It's just that the movies that we like, we won't say nothing about, but they worked with the machine. Unfortunately, in Zack Snyder's situation, he tried to work with the machine, but the machine wasn't laser focused on their own goals first. They weren't willing to lay it down brick by brick. They was already looking at the ahead of the race. They understand that what Marvel took their time in building, DC was going to have to, and you had a good start with Man of Steel, even though it was a little polarizer for some. You should have stayed your path, because you trying to be Marvel will only make you get looked as if you were Marvel. And people would have said that you were stealing from them or jacking their style and stuff like that. So there was no way around that. No way at all. So what was the next move you could have done? Stayed the path. If you knew that you wanted to evolve the character into what he's supposed to be, stay the path. You might have had to dial back the money on selling, like doing too much over the top stuff. So we was gonna have to find a villain maybe that could have kept Superman a little bit more grounded, like Metallo, so we could drop the budget. And I would have to put in there, we gotta start seeing drops of the change in Superman sooner than later, because we like what you're doing and we understand that they're not ready for your story. But for your story to, I need you to start lightening up towards, we just have to. You know, and it wouldn't have been too hard to do. It was baked in the character. It was just about making sure you could evolve the character. So what I would have done was focus more on his intimate life, and balancing that against, you know, being a corny, Metropolis, newspaper guy, Clark Kent, but also now as Superman, start saving people. You could evolve this in a montage. You can start seeing him getting more comfortable expressing himself the way he would like to be. Just bask in the glow of seeing what humanity can really be. And from that you could have gotten a more real world, upbeat Superman that would have still fit with regards to what Zack Snyder was doing. And because he didn't really play Clark Kent much dissimilar from Superman, because this Superman there was no need for you to, you could have probably show him, do a little bit more to down himself as, being a little bit more upbeat as a Clark Kent if you wanted to, or make himself a little bit more clumsier just for that effect if you wanted to show him trying to separate the two. But they could have just evolved the character there into a little bit more of a hopeful soul. Had he saved a villain, like maybe he had two villains the whole movie and saves one, and actually maybe in finding an offshoot character that between movies he might have saved that was a bad guy that he caught but he saved in some sort of way and said something. The guy actually becomes a better person, and Superman runs across him and he talks to him about, you don't know what you said to me and how that changed me. And it clicks for Superman. He starts to realize that it's not just him saving them, it's who he was to them. He didn't realize the things that he was saying to them was actually doing more for them than the actual action of saving them. And they could have evolved the character through that avenue, through a Zack Snyder film. And I think Zack Snyder had the chops that he could express it. Even him. Because it would have went through the same deeper, quote unquote, darker path if you want, but more real world path. But kind of found that avenue to bring him to that space where he can save people also with his own smile. And he realized, if I can bring that to them as well, then it's more than just what I physically do. When I connect with them, I give them even more than just the physical archetype. And then we could have gotten that. But I just went off on a hell of a tangent. But my point being is, if they would have allowed, WB was afraid to go through those avenues and stay the course and build the franchise brick by brick that way. So we're here. And I get it. We can't get that time back. And the article lays out, as everyone likes to dote on, in order what happened, but pay very wary about how this article is written. And I have no problem saying that I did not research the writer, because under any other circumstance I probably wouldn't have, but a lot of people have been raising her name and saying that she's a credible source, so I'll give you that. But there's a part in there where she becomes part of the story, where it makes sense why just reading the article, even outside of the timing that it was dropped, reeks of it being personal. Even some of the words she used as Zack Snyder, who plucked Ray Fisher from obscurity, when they didn't have to say that. She could have just left it at found an unknown. But the way she was posturing everything, and even referring to Zack Snyder as a quote unquote Lex Luthor sword, her verbiage almost sounded like she was writing a character that we've never even seen in Zack Snyder. Now, I'm going to be fair, because it's possible that, and there's enough credible evidence to suggest that he was motivating the crowd, but that was the only way he could actually speak back, because when hicklings of a Snyder cut was being talked about, it wasn't like it was unlikely that there was one. And even if he himself leaked it out, so the fuck what? How do you think we got Deadpool? Someone leaked the footage of that. When it works, we're cool with it, all for art. But when it don't work for us, that's when we don't like it. We can't play these games. Now, I'm going to separate all you guys that don't like Zack Snyder's vision from those that do, because you don't need to like his vision or not to understand if we can have one common ground, that he likes making movies and he puts a lot of effort into it. Even if you say he can't write, or he doesn't select the good enough writers, or whatever you want to say, let's just be fair and say he doesn't set out to make a bad movie. If we could just agree on that, then whether you liked his choices or not, it's not hard. You don't even need to be a Snyder fan or not to read that article and tell that this was a hit piece. Even the title that it was, and let me get the title right, because everybody's talked about this as well, which, to be fair, they'll say it says exclusive. Fake accounts fueled the Snyder Cut online army, which it was, like everyone says, it was very small in comparison to what they were laying out. So this is how I could understand an article like that could just slide by, because that wasn't what this article was really about. Which makes me wonder, did the heads at Rolling Stone know this was the article? Or were they seeing another article and then this was posted? Just a question. I'm not saying that's what it is, and I'm not being conspiratorial. But if they stood behind the article, then why didn't they use the name? Unless, you know what I'm saying? Because this would have still got Zack Snyder's attention. I get that if they would have wrote the article like it said, this under the headline that it should have been under, this would have flagged a lot of people. And I can understand if this was working title for a little bit. But this should not have been this was not even the icing on the cake of everything. This was just like a small, that was just like the appetizer. That wasn't the full meal. You know what I'm saying? So I question why they did that. But me, I'm not looking for reasons to buy into Zack Snyder. It makes you have to look at Zack Snyder and beg the question, did he pimp the fandom? And the question I ask is, now, even myself, why did I choose the word pimp? Because I want to express a certain negative disdain, because he had the movie, there was a cut. Whether it was finished or not wasn't what people cared about. But the fact that he wanted to put out his finished piece of art so everybody could judge him on that, I ain't knocking it. Now, I do believe that there was that exchange over getting his name off of it. Zack Snyder might have just felt himself and say, yo, the fans ain't gonna like that. Because he was gonna go probably put it out there and tell the fans. And that's all he needed to. That doesn't mean he expected them to threaten anybody. You know what I'm saying? Whether he intended for them to do it and he wanted to have like a level of plausible deniability, to be fair, and even if he did, we can't prove that. We can't. And we have to be real. He didn't shoot first. He did not. He did not. And I'm going to get into it a little bit more deeper down the line, but let's be clear. There was a whole bigger. There was a real big campaign to get Zack Snyder off and fired from DC. Yeah, just the same. This is before BVS. Actually, around BVS. And possibly before. Online, everybody shitting everything that he did to the point where they had to fly some people over just to show them that they cared about the project and they were impassioned about it. And Ben Affleck sat and spoke to some. And the attitudes of the people back then was very weird. So just as we can make arguments that Zack Snyder could have bought bots and kind of stirred hornets' nest, we could say that maybe Jeff Johns and them was doing that from prior to, because I just remember there was this weird campaign against Zack Snyder. And I just aired on the side that it could have been organic, but it was just as weird as you might think that all these Zack Snyder fans came from. But you got to also remember, from what I understood, he has a big following out in Brazil. There's other places in the United States that was tweeting. So we have to be careful and not be too narrow-minded about how we approach this. Now look, I asked myself real quick, does the article change anything? It may make me look at Zack Snyder a little different. Might, just a little bit. Like maybe he was also just as aggressive back. And at one point, if you map out how everything was going and people were just coming at his name, did the WB do everything in their power to protect him from other fans that were shitting on him? Let's be for real. And maybe they're not doing it to the level of this. I'll be fair. But they were going all crazy. I remember, like, you couldn't just go on whatchamacallit without a bunch of people crapping on him. Getting views, crapping on Zack Snyder, crapping on. It was almost like, yo, like, anybody could just jump right on. You know, once you tag lane the game is follow the leader. You dig? Once everybody can get on for saying and downing and clowning your film, and people will be entertained by it, you always get it. Just ask the Brie Larson effect. When Brie Larson was like the top person to hate, guess what? It was Click City as soon as you just put her in the title. Let's be for real. So we could also argue a lot of us use our quote-unquote armies, if you will, to do what we want to do to represent for Zack Snyder as well. That's something we have to also take into consideration. Now, to be fair, I will tell you this. It does keep it in the corner of my mind if Zack Snyder does work directly in tandem with certain tubers and people directly. And not to just do leaks. I'm past the leaks. To stir beef or send people after people for harassment's sake. Because I just don't see that in Zack needing to have to do that. I can see him say it and pop his shit. But now if there's a coincidence that shortly afterwards, that's when Ray Fisher started to call Walter Amada a racist. Hey man, I could understand how that could look wrong. So I take that into consideration. But that could be coincidence, you know. Ray Fisher seemed like that's what the direction he was going to go regardless. But I will say this. It does make me keep it in the corner of my mind, the possibility. And the reason being that I'll keep it as a possibility in the corner of my mind is because even I asked the question on another tuber's stream, what did Walter Hamada do that was racist? I just wanted to know. And I was honest. I just wanted to know. Because technically, he wasn't there for everything. For Justice League. Not even Kevin Tsuchihara was there for Justice League. He came on after they got rid of all the execs. Hamada was brought up into almost like that was a raise. That was a promotion. So, and he was brought there for a specific reason. That's why I said I can never understand what the beef was between Hamada and Ray Fisher. I didn't understand it. Now, if you're saying he enabled them, again, how could he enable them when they weren't there? And when it comes to the Booyah line, I didn't think that was racist because I expected him to say it. That was where he's most famous from. That's what gave him life. Otherwise, they could have just went with Martian Manhunter and been done with it. The only reason why people care about Cyborg is mostly from that animated film. Show. Let's call it what it is. And most people that watch the show come from him saying, Booyah. I expected it. And you said it. So why throw all of that at Hamada? It doesn't make sense. Now, the guy that I spoke to said it was Jeff Johns. I couldn't figure out anything with Jeff Johns. You feel me? Like, I was like, is that circumstantial? Because I don't expect. He was saying something about the hair thing, and I was like, all right, I could give you that, but that's Jeff Johns. And I was like, with the hair thing, I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't expect them to know what to do with our hair. So I would expect them to get like more of a consultant. But like, I was like, all right, but if that's the best you could do, I was like, cool, but then that's still Jeff Johns. That's not Hamada. And Hamada was set, try to brush it off and bring them together. That was his job. One thing's for certain, I don't think he could have dropped Jeff Johns even if he wanted to. I don't think he had the power at the time. And he was your comic book guy. He needed a comic book guy. Why not a writer to be his consultant? So him getting rid of Jeff Johns was a no-no. They wanted Ray Fisher. They wanted Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher is the one that didn't want to F with that. That's why he was trying to brush it away. He was trying to get y'all to work together regardless. Yeah, so what if he's racist? To me, I look at it as that's just him hustling. Because he was hired, promoted to mend the company and turn it into a different direction. And what's the first thing you're going to want to do? Is make sure that you got all your actors and everybody is cool. It didn't work. He thought by like saying, nah, yo, you got to work with him. So what, I know he's, you know what I'm saying? I know he's racist or whatever. And he thought that he could just get him on par, but you got to work with him. It didn't work that way. You know what I mean? And Ray Fisher exposed the conversation. I think that should have been more of a private thing. But if you were going to be this vocal about it, he was willing to go down with the ship. I just still didn't understand why he kept citing Hamada directly. I just never could understand it like it was personal. Because even if you felt like Hamada should have backed you, he didn't do the racist thing. And it's not like he was trying to fire you. And if you can't exactly tell me what was racist that he did was booyah, I'm sorry, that didn't sound like it was, you know, I need something else. Like, because he legitimately said it in the series that he's most notable for. You had to have known that. I get that Zack didn't want to do that. And with Zack, you had more creative liberties, but you wasn't gonna have that with Whedon. Whedon was hired to change the direction and the tone. You was gonna say booyah, and I'm sure they wanted you to say it better than that whisper, but I'm sure that was the compromise, and that's the thing. So I didn't really look at that as a thing. And again, leave it in the comments if you could citate something very specific. That's why even in that thing, conversation with the person I had on another stream, I even was like, damn, bro, like when because the guy kept saying you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, yo, it made me go, damn, bro, like you're not telling me what he said that was actually racist. And if you can't say it, I'd rather you just say no. You feel like Jeff Johns is, and you had more citations for Jeff Johns. It was a little loose, but I could get where you're coming from with that. If you're saying he's guilty by association, I don't know what he was supposed to do when he got promoted to that job. What was he supposed to do? That's all I'm saying. And I think Jeff Johns was above him. Or if not, he couldn't just fire Jeff Johns. And he needed him to be successful because he didn't come from comics. Jeff Johns was your writer. He was your direct plug. It was, for him, it's like it's simple hustle. I can't get rid of the plug. I can't. He's the plug. Now, I need you. Because we need you could work a corner for me strong and bring it back. I need you. But remember, I got other people in this universe that is going to work bigger blocks that are bigger names than Cyborg. So, if you're going to fall back for real, alright, then F it. And then it was so public. And the fact that it went public, everybody was going tit for tat. Let's be for real. People on that side was doing little effed up stuff too. Let's not forget. I understand we got that timeline. But even in their timeline, they neglect the fact that there were certain things that they were doing to antagonize the fans themselves. And I think this is just a hit piece to Zack Snyder and the fandom for the timing, for how it's written, because it's not written down the middle. Some of the words of choice clearly speaks from a person that already knows the premise and where this is going to end, and they're already talking all the way through it, letting you know, no, like he's an ass. Zack's an ass. Let me explain. I promise you he's ass. Let me show you. And instead of let me give you what my investigation, and it paints it out itself in chronological order. And I'd respect you a lot more if you showed what they were doing, because they were shooting back. It just seemed like it was all one-sided, and coming from a regime that got cleaned out, it's easy to say these are disgruntled employees, and this is where you was getting all your information from. You didn't even get enough from the asides. Now, with Ray Fisher, his answer to not being in the article, not ready. So it wasn't like they said he declined. I forgot the exact quote, but we'll get into that another day. I might do it on Road to the Snyder Cut where we get a deep dive. I might read the whole article. But people were saying that he declined. And I didn't see that she wrote decline. Because that's where I was coming from. Because I'm a firm believer on what you chose. Because if he never responded to the email you say, he didn't respond. And I think that's what she wrote. So I have to be fair there. Because she was fair enough there. But I believe the impression initially was from Ray was like, you didn't even know about it. And then, or she gave you a little time. And then it was like they moved up the date. An hour. Some people have said, well, it was only an hour. You could have just formally declined and gave a couple of mediocre sentences down the middle, of which people who said that are right. But in Ray Fisher's favor, one, he didn't have to write back. He could have looked at the effort. Two, maybe he was in his mood and he was like, wanted to think about it a little bit more. I don't know. Why not? Because I would think twice about even just saying anything. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe, just maybe, he was thinking about what to say, or he got it, and he got it from maybe because they moved up the time and he's in another time zone. That's what I was kind of considering, why the time was off. And then he looked at it and was like, oh, you moved up the time, when it might not have been that they moved up the time. The time zones was off. That's probably what it was. But then he would have showed that they responded. But neither here nor there. That's the only thing I could think of. But I also do believe that he doesn't owe any answer to anybody now at this point. Like, F it. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I will say this now. That accountability over entertainment now. Yeah, now this is where, even if you're a big Ray Fisher fan, you got to look at Ray Fisher and say, then what you got to say about your boy? That's your mans in him. Now, unless you know for sure that it's all a lie and you just can't speak on it, that's the only way I let this shit slide. Otherwise, you got to talk about it. And then if not that, you got to talk about Amber Heard. Let's be for real. It can't flow just one way, my bro. You stepped in it. You stepped in it once you wanted to take the high road with the accountability over entertainment. Fine. You set the table. Like I told people, man, I at least try to be consistent. I think DC set the table first. I think Jeff Johns did what he could to push Snyder out behind the scenes in a unfair and structured manner. He might have even did his own share of salacious leaks to motivate fandom to hate Snyder. I mean, if you could say that about Snyder, we could say the same. Only thing is, you said you citate your sources, and you got sources. And I don't believe you should give up your sources. But if your sources come from inside the old regime, we also have to take into consideration that they're disgruntled employees. And we have to accept that we should act accordingly if that also be the case. That said, I want to bring this one to a close. I don't want to get too long-winded on this one because we're going to come back and revisit this. I might do a part 2, but I want to bring it back to the initial question now. Expose or hit piece? I lean more towards hit piece if I have to choose one or the other. But to be fair, I do believe part of this is an expose. I do think that Snyder at some point snapped this or started saying, hey, you don't know what the fans gonna feel about that. And that doesn't mean that he actively sent bots to do that and all that. I thought there was one interesting thing about them saying that a firm, if I'm not mistaken, someplace bought the bots, but you gotta link him to that. But this whole attitude about, oh, well, who are these people that donated to the billboards and all of that? Well, you didn't ask that about the charities. How much money did they raise in charity? From several different charities. Think about that. And then that could provide context for how they could have financed all the billboards. It's a good conspiracy theory, but you didn't follow it all the way through. And you ain't asked that about the charities, because charities are linked to people. And if you see several people donating that large amounts of money from different fandoms, then you can see how they could have raised the money to keep a billboard up. All you need is one rich or two or three fairly rich Snyder Cut fans, and they could have came together, bought it on their own, or raised it amongst the fandoms exclusively. Who knows? And to be fair, yeah, it's possible Zack Snyder could have paid for it. It's possible, but I think that would have been known. Because if this is an expose, you should be able to follow the paperwork. Who bought the plane? Because all you're doing is raising questions now, wrapped around certain things you did get from your quote-unquote sources. And you had an experience about some lines being taken out and him saying that. So maybe you're twisting his words. Maybe that was his way of trying to tell you, yo, look, some of these sentences ain't gonna go well with the fandom. I would take a couple of these out. And if you was like, well, I'm gonna leave this in, well, the fandom, man, they might not take to that. And then shortly afterwards, something happened. Maybe he knew, but you didn't want to take it out. So he said, yo, live with your consequences. Because clearly how she felt about that then, in another article she wrote for Zack Snyder, which I think she said it was a good article. It was about something completely else. That all of a sudden you're here with it. But let me know in the comments below. Am I going someplace with this? But as I come to the end of it, I lean more towards a hit piece than an expose. But there is an expose in there. Who's it exposing? I'll leave you guys up to it to judge. We'll get into this again and do a deeper dive. But till then, I don't know. I'm thinking about reaching out to a YouTuber to see if I could talk a little bit more, because I want the fandom to understand that. And I've said it here already. We have to be the best representation of the fandom. We just got to. We can't keep expecting these other celebrities to just be the face of it as well. We have to represent for what they want. That's why I didn't like a lot of the back and forth flipping from both sides of the table, because all it does is fuel the masses to say, look, this is what the archetype of a Snyder Cut fan is, and that's not representative of us. I do believe a lot of people that are the most extra, what they call it, bagging. You want to ride the wagon, bagging, yeah, well, wagon jumpers, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they just want to be on board. I don't think they really think they're as invested in the film. They just need something to fight. It's like soldiers that they just need someone to go at, because that's all they got. And I think there's also another thing. I think a lot of people found a lot of quality relationships, or at least some that they believe they have. But definitely I do believe people found some quality friendships and fandoms and cliques amongst this. And it almost feel like when people come at the Snyder Cut fandom, you're coming at the thing that keeps you guys tight. And I get that as well. So you want to ride on all things. They try to separate this clique. And it becomes very clicked up. Mobbing, everybody mobbing on each other and all that shit. All over movies. They just one step away from snatching up a rag. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's that left and right thing too. And a lot of other people are bringing in their left and right wing politics to this. Because let a person talk a little bit long enough, and not far behind it, you're going to hear some left and right wing politics right behind it. I shit you not. People are using the films as avatars to speak to a bigger concern that they may have, or beefs amongst each other. But let me know what you think, man. Leave it in the comments below. I'm going to talk a little bit more on it. Let me know if you think I should reach out to some of these guys, because there's maybe one channel, I know one, I don't know if those olive branches are out to the other people as well, but I know one channel has said that they wanted to maybe chop it up with me one day, and maybe we would, and maybe this is the perfect time to do so. But leave in the comments below, let me know what you think, and as always, like, share, subscribe. See you next time, and as always, I have a better outro. Chill.